Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and man, oh man, I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all probably already assumed this, but Ian Rappaport just went on NFL Network and let everybody know, according to his sources, according to the information that he's received, of course, it's not necessarily 100% true, 100% factual, but from a very trustworthy source, they are saying that Josh Harris will not fire Ron Rivera until the end of the season if he does it all. I mean, I've been seeing reports the past couple of weeks that it's less likely that Ron Rivera gets fired at all, even in this offseason, than a lot of people think, type of thing. So we got to do a deep dive into what Ian Rappaport reported. And of course, I have, Rico Street Scores. I got to bring y'all a lot of crazy stats and information concerning Ron Rivera and why or why not he should be fired, first of all, at all, let alone soon. I mean, I know a lot of people were calling for his head before it even got to Monday. And I'm going to break down why he's not even likely to be fired after this upcoming Cowboys game, even though a lot of y'all are probably watching this after the Cowboys game. But I'm gonna let you know why he's more than likely not even getting fired even after that game, no matter how ugly it gets. And again, we have a lot of stats to talk about. And yeah, man, before we dive into all of that, make sure you still farm that like button, still farm the subscription button, and still farm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. And make sure y'all stay tuned. I'm coming with daily content. We're right back to it. And again, I have so many video topics I need to talk about. I have a lot of crazy advanced stats for what the Commanders have done this season, where we rank in a lot of categories. How bad has this season actually really been? I have a full breakdown on whether we should or not get Bill Belichick as our next head coach. A big breakdown on Eugene Shin, and I'm also evaluating a lot of the young talent as far as what players should we hold on to going into 2024 and beyond. What are the players that we should build around, veteran or young? And I may even do some film sessions for those guys to provide examples so you can see it, why we can build around this guy at corner, or this guy at receiver, this guy on an offensive line, this guy at quarterback, and Sam Howell, all of that type of stuff. So make sure you stay tuned, because I'm coming with crazy content, mock drafts, everything. So we're about to dive into all of that and more. But let's go ahead and get to this video, man. Let's get it.
He's our quarterback for the 5-10 years, and I truly believe that.
All right, so Ian Rappaport came out and said that the status of Commanders coach Ron Rivera is now a topic of discussion, but ownership would like to evaluate after the season. That's really interesting. And I mean, it's been reported, it's been reworded that Commanders owner Josh Harris plans to evaluate Ron Rivera after the season, barring any unforeseen circumstances. And I mean, if you ask me, getting 30 burgered, getting probably 50 burgered by the Cowboys later on today, I don't think that's necessarily unforeseen. So in my opinion, no matter how bad we lose to the Cowboys, unless it's just some super undisciplined type of performance where it's like clearly the locker room is giving up on them type of thing, then I guess that will be considered an unforeseen circumstance. But it's not unforeseen that we about to get whooped by the Cowboys upcoming. I mean, even just fully healthy, I'm not entirely too sure of our chances of beating the Cowboys. We can't even beat the Giants. We lost to the Giants twice this year. We lost to the Bears, and we just seem to always play to below the level of our competition. And then on top of that, we have ridiculous injuries. I mean, granted, we did get Cody Barton back. We're getting Cody Barton back today. Again, I'm recording this before the Cowboys game. A lot of y'all probably watching it afterwards. But I mean, we have a lot of people injured, out. IR, out, banged up, even if they do play. It's not looking good, man. And the Cowboys are healthier than us, and then you can argue even when both teams are fully healthy are probably better than us, the way that they played so far this season, the way we've played. I thought on paper we would have a good chance coming into the season, but from what I've seen in the 2 L's against the Giants, we're not taking ourselves seriously. So again, this Cowboys game, us getting beat 40 something to 20 something, or even less than 20, I don't think that's unforeseen. I don't think that's just highly unlikely. So if he's saying unforeseen, I'm assuming that there's no way possible that Rivera could be fired after this Cowboys game. Because again, I think it's pretty foreseen that we might get whooped on today. Also, man, I've seen both arguments for both sides as whether or not to fire Ron Rivera mid-season. I can see both sides because on one side, people are saying that, I mean, yeah, if you fire Ron Rivera right now and you move Eric Bieniemy to head coach to see what he has to do and what he can do with this team, whether he go ahead and give it an early audition or early job interview for the next head coaching job for the 2024 season, if Ron Rivera does end up actually getting fired at all, then a lot of people are saying, well, that, Eric Bieniemy's at the very least been doing a great job with developing Sam Howell, and moving him to head coach, he will have a lot more on his plate. He won't be able to focus as much on continuing to develop Sam Howell for the remainder of the season. I see that. But on the other side, of course, which I've already presented with the other case in a way, that it will give you time to evaluate what we have going on. Get Ron Rivera out the way, see what everybody else can do, and then that will give you a better idea of your personnel, your players, your coaching staff, your front office. And if you just remove Ron Rivera from the equation, now you have a better idea what everybody else can do as individuals. So I think it would make more sense to go ahead and fire him now. I mean, if the argument that Eric Bieniemy can't be as close to Sam Howell, I know he would have a lot more on his plate, but it's not like he's about to take over and try to change the culture in these last few games. The season's pretty much over with, especially after losing to the Cowboys potentially today. I mean, I just don't think you can get out of a 4-8 hole and try to make the playoffs when the Vikings are still pretty good and they're holding on to that 7 seed really strong right now. So I don't know, man. It's really, really ugly as far as the future goes. So I don't think even Eric Bieniemy would put too much effort into actually trying to win games. I mean, of course you go out there to try to win, but I think his calling card, he probably knows, well, when in doubt, even though I haven't been in my bag as much as I'd hoped this season, even though my play calling hasn't been as great as a lot of people expected it to be, at the very least, I can lay my hat on the fact that Sam Howell has gone from a 5th round pick to what looks like potentially a franchise quarterback for this team. No, he hasn't been perfect, but Eric Bieniemy can take a lot of credit for it. I mean, maybe Ken Zampese can take some credit as well, but I really do think that Eric Bieniemy, if he becomes head coach, I don't think he'll be as far removed from Howell as a lot of people assume he would be. And I feel like, if Sam Howell is truly a franchise quarterback, Eric Bieniemy becoming a head coach should make him just that much worse to end the season. I don't think it should. It will still be Eric Bieniemy's offense at the very least. So I say go ahead and do it, in my opinion. But I can see the argument why a lot of people wouldn't want to remove Eric Bieniemy. But then again, there's a lot of people out there that don't feel like Sam Howell is a franchise quarterback, and there's two sides to that. A lot of people are saying that he's not a franchise quarterback, period. A lot of people are saying that I got to see more. And I completely understand both of those sides. Well, at least to see more side. I'm definitely a little bit further. I think Sam Howell should be the franchise quarterback. I think we should take this upcoming offseason, especially to draft to build around him. But I can see the argument for a lot of people saying that, we need to wait and see. Give him a few more games the rest of the season to see. I can kind of see that. But also, I'm very optimistic about the fact that he's going to kill it these last few games. I really do, in spite of all of the chaos going on around him. But shouts out my boy Chris Russell over there, Locked On Commanders. He brought up a great point. He tweeted, "Let me clarify. I've never called for Ron or anyone on his staff to be fired. I just think the notion that anyone and everyone is not going to be evaluated until after the season is hard to believe. Everyone and everything should be evaluated every day." So again, to go back to the language used from when Around the NFL tweeted it, that they're not even going to evaluate Ron Rivera until after the season. Like, he's not being evaluated yet, let alone has the ability to be fired. That's a whole step after that. We're talking about not even evaluating him until after the season, which is crazy. It doesn't sound like he's very likely to be fired at any point during the season at all. Like, not even close. So I don't like that, but it's really interesting. Let's go ahead and start diving into the stats of this Ron Rivera era. A lot of these, the vast majority of them are going to be negative, but of course, not all of this is his fault, because I feel like the main guy that people really need to be focused a lot of their hate towards, Ron Rivera deserves a lot of it. Jack Del Rio deserves a lot of it, but I feel like Martin Mayhew is the primary culprit to a lot of the problems that we're having right now. I definitely feel like it's a good, evenly split pie amongst those top guys. Eric Bieniemy hasn't been at his best as well, and then of course we have a lot of players that we can blame. But just to look at Rivera and what he's accomplished so far as being the head coach here and halfway GM for a couple of years as well, and even this past draft where Martin Mayhew is the GM technically, but he's checking with Ron Rivera before they make a draft pick. Like, Ron Rivera has to sign off on it. He's still running this operation kind of like a Bill Belichick situation. So I think that's really interesting. So under Ron Rivera, even though it's not all his fault, but for the reasons I already explained, a lot of it is his fault. We are now 38-50 since 2018 under Ron Rivera. Let's go ahead and get that out the way. Also, since Ron Rivera's been in Washington, we're 3-5 against the Eagles, 2-5-1 against the Giants, and 3-3 against the Cowboys. And I'm not very optimistic about us adding a 4 to the win category instead of the loss category as far as going against the Cowboys. And also, a lot of times we played the Cowboys, Dak Prescott has been hurt from what I remember. Also, like I said a while ago, man, like I said in my game review after the Giants game, going 0-6 in the division is fireable no matter what you have done as a head coach. I don't care what happens. If you go 0-6 in a division in any given season, you need to be fired. And again, I'm not very optimistic about our chances even getting one win against the Cowboys this season. We've lost twice to the Giants. What chance do we have against the Cowboys? And I mean, we played really well against the Eagles. I mean, the way we played against the Eagles, we played that way against the Giants. We probably win by double digits, but we just don't seem to do that. And at this point, when it's a lack of focus, when it's a lack of consistency, you got to put a lot of that blame on the coaching. But again, I don't care if you won a Super Bowl in 2022. If you're 0-6 in your division in 2023, you might need to go. Like if the Chiefs came out and was 0-6 in the AFC West this year, I mean, it would be a talking point to fire even Andy Reid. Like if for it to be that bad, you know what I'm saying? I don't care what you did the year before. 0-6 in your division is absolutely inexcusable, especially when the Giants are as bad as they are. Them boys is 3-8, and 2 of their dubs are against us, and 1 of them is a come-from-behind victory against the Cardinals. Like, that's really, really bad, man. The stats on what the Giants do to other teams compared to what they do against us is phenomenal. You got to remember, we lost to a second-string quarterback the first time we played the Giants, and a third-string quarterback the second time we played the Giants. That's absolutely ridiculous, and we already know what Daniel Jones does against us, so it's not like we prefer him at all. Probably would have been even worse and not even close. The way Daniel Jones looks like white Michael Vick against us, boy, it'd be bad, man. Also, shouts out to Ron Rivera though, because you know, despite all of the mediocrity that's been going on for several years now, the fact that we're just always average, which again, for me, as a fan of a team, being perpetually average is the worst thing you could do. I prefer to go ahead and be terrible and get some game-changing potential Hall of Fame players, some playmakers, and then turn this thing around. I hope y'all noticed that a lot of the teams that were worse than us at one point are now better than us. I really, really hope y'all have noticed that. A lot of the teams that were laughingstocks to the NFL a couple of years ago are superior to us now because they went ahead and just was like, all right, we're just going to embrace being terrible, get some better draft picks, go crazy in free agency, sign some really team-friendly deals, and just turn this whole franchise around. Whereas we just keep staying afloat, never being good enough to win any meaningful games, but also always being so bad when it matters most, but we're never bad enough to get those higher draft picks. The only time was Chase Young, and then Chase Young finally started to figure it out. Injury set him back a lot. In this season, he was actually really good for us, a top 10 pass rusher, according to advanced stats, before he even went to the 49ers, and then we trade him away for a compensatory, conditional third round, like some terrible third round pick that is not even like 100% guaranteed that we actually end up with it. It's actually really crazy. So it's just, again, the worst thing, I've been warning y'all since years ago, since Jay Gruden was here, that being average is the worst thing you can do in the NFL. You just stay there. You get stuck. There's no momentum changes. There's no getting better. There's no getting worse. And if anything, you're going to stay average for forever and then slowly get worse and worse and worse. And we're starting to get to that little part where we start to dive a little bit, but it's not a nosedive. You would almost prefer a nosedive. Right now, it's that little, like you're definitely not going up. The trajectory is definitely pointing in the wrong direction. But again, despite all of the mediocrity that we've had in Ron Rivera's tenure, this is he had his first 6 turnover game in the 201 games that he's coached as a head coach in his NFL career. That's crazy. So against the Giants was his first 6 turnover game. I mean, yeah, we turned the ball over 6 times and gave Giants the 24 of their 31 points off of those turnovers. Like, that's just shameful. Also, shouts out my boy Ref the District for this stat right here. In 20 of the 61 games under the Ron Rivera era, Washington has never led at any point during the game. That is like really bad. 33% of games that Ron Rivera has been the head coach for the Burgundy and Gold, we never led at any point. Not leading at halftime, not leading going into the fourth quarter. At any point in 60 minutes of football, 33% of the times, we've never led. 33% of games never ever thought about leading the game. That is crazy. Also, shouts out to Ref the District for this one as well. Again, if you're not following them on YouTube or Twitter, you're tripping. Another tweet. There are plenty of stats that are an indictment of Ron Rivera's tenure in Washington, but also in his 61 games, Washington has been tied or behind at halftime in 43 of 61 games, which is 71%, including 8 of 11, 73% this year, and have led wire to wire in only 5 games. That's really bad. That's 5 games out of his 61 games coach have led wire to wire. That's wild, bro. That's like extremely, if that's not even average, that's just bad. Also, the Commanders are the first team since 1984 to have 9+ sacks and lose by double digits. I mean, we're like achieving generationally bad stuff over here, man. We're doing stuff that people have never done since the 1980s, how bad we are. So I'm not even sure if you can consider average. I mean, at this point, we might actually just be bad now, finally. I mean, again, a lot of these teams that we were laughing at years ago, the Browns 7-3, the Jaguars 7-3, the Lions 8-2, and then the Bengals without injuries, look at what they can do. I mean, come on, dog. All of these teams we used to laugh at years ago when we first hired Ron Rivera have not only surpassed us, but become great teams because they've done what it takes. I mean, the Browns are a slightly different situation, but the Jaguars and Lions, I mean, they've all done everything that they could to get elite players in the draft. I mean, I know the Lions had to make a move to get a veteran quarterback in Jared Goff, but I don't even think he's the main reason. They kind of struck gold with Ben Johnson, but a lot of the players, a lot of the rookie class that they drafted this past class, with a lot of those higher draft picks they had, led to a lot of those guys are making big plays for them. Sam Laporta, the linebacker. I mean, it's ridiculous, bro. And then the Jaguars literally just did all they could to get a franchise quarterback and turn that whole thing around. It's just like, man, come on, dog. Can we do the same thing, please? Also, for the 32nd consecutive year, Washington will not win at least 11 regular season games. Barring a December collapse by Detroit, every other NFL franchise will have done it at least twice in that span. So that's beyond Ron Rivera. That's just Dan Snyder, really. That's older than me. So for the 32nd consecutive year, let me read this again. Washington will not win at least 11 regular season games. Again, every other NFL franchise has at least done it twice in those 32 years. We haven't even done it once. So you could argue we've been the worst team in the NFL over the last 32 years. That's terrible. Also, a good point by my boy Fatou Sadio on Twitter. If the Commanders play Josh Dobbs and the Broncos right now, we may not even be able to beat them. Josh Dobbs, Cardinals, or Vikings. And then the way that the Denver Broncos right now are beating good teams, we probably would not have beat them. We would probably be 2-7 if we played them later on in our schedule. It's actually really, to my fault, 2-9. We would be 2-9 right now if we would have played them later instead of early into the season. That is absolutely crazy when you think about it. Also, shouts out to Grant Paulson for this one. The Commanders have been favored in 4 games this season. They have not covered in any of those games and are 1-3 straight up. They've lost their last 3 games as favorites by a combined 39 points. That's ridiculous, man. We're worse than, and as much hate as we get from ESPN, NFL Network, all of these different places, CBS, wherever you want to look, we've been worse than even they expected us to be, which is crazy. Also, through 11 games, 2020, we were 4-7. 2021, we were 5-6. 2022, we were 6-5. And then 2023, we're right back down to 4-7. So you could argue we were like going up win by win, inch by inch through 11 games in a season. And then we just went right back down to where we started in 2020 when we first got Ron Rivera. That's crazy, man. Also, since 2020, the Giants are 5-2-1 versus Washington, 17-36 versus everybody else. We're the only team they have a positive record against. Well, like that they've played consistently. Again, since 2020, since Ron Rivera's been here, the Giants are 17-36 versus everybody else, 5-2-1 versus us. That's absolutely ridiculous, man. That's terrible stuff, man. And I know y'all saw that the Commanders didn't have hot water after the game. Shouts out my boy Rio Robinson. Make sure you subscribe to him on YouTube, everywhere. Follow him on Twitter, all of that. He posted a really funny meme about that situation. My dog said hot water is for winners. And you see how angry Ron Rivera is? Them boys ain't going out there winning, man. Before we get up out of here, though, let's go ahead and do a deep dive into exactly what Ian Rappaport said. I just wanted to give y'all some interesting stats about what Ron Rivera has done here since he's gotten here. According to Ian Rappaport, the Commanders' Josh Owner plans to give head coach Ron Rivera the rest of the season evaluate his full body of work at the end of the year, along with that of the full coaching staff and front office. So he doesn't want any changes to the end of the season. I don't know why, but that seems to be the plan right now. Again, barring any unforeseen circumstances, and again, I don't think us losing by 30 to the Cowboys unforeseen at this point. Rappaport says that was Harris's plan when he took over ownership of the team in July, and in an ideal world, he wants to avoid making sweeping changes in season. So that's just the Josh Harris logic. He adds Harris and Rivera have hit it off, and the new owner doesn't think making big coaching changes midseason usually leads to positive results. In an ideal world, Rivera and the team show enough progress down the stretch to earn another year. So I don't think so. I mean, based on the schedule I'm seeing, at Cowboys today, then the Miami Dolphins, bye week, and you can't lose on a bye week. Then the Rams with Matthew Stafford probably back healthy, who just beat the Seahawks, who we lost to. The Jets with Aaron Rodgers after playing a couple of games, getting his Achilles back under him. The San Francisco 49ers, and then the Cowboys again. I mean, maybe you win that Cowboys game because the Cowboys already have their playoff spot, their playoff seeding solidified, and they're just like, well, we might as well sit our starters type of thing. That's our best, and I'm not even sure if we can win that because again, we lost to the Giants twice this season. Who can you beat? So yeah, I don't know, man. The Dolphins are bad team eaters. They don't necessarily beat teams with positive records, but us at 4-7, more than likely 4-8 heading into that game, we're not exactly a positive team. So the Dolphins probably going to be a bad team eater that day. And so I'm just warning y'all now, man. It's not looking pretty. I don't know what potential good run, enough progress at the end of the stretch of the year. I mean, if you're measuring it by wins, I don't see it. Now, if you're trying to isolate Ron Rivera from the losing and say, well, at least we lost with style, then maybe that's the only thing I can see. But I don't see us winning many games for the rest of the season. Just going to keep it a thou out with y'all. However, Rappaport acknowledges an ugly performance against the Cowboys today in a nationally televised game could spark some changes. And if Washington ends up missing the playoffs as looks likely, it could be Rivera's final season in Washington. Again, I don't think it's likely that we make the playoffs at all. I think it's very likely that we don't. Rivera, 61, is a former second-round pick of the Bears back in 1984. He played several seasons in Chicago before taking his first coaching job with the Bears in 1997. He worked for the Eagles and Chargers before the Panthers hired him as their head coach in 2011. Rivera spent 9 years with the Panthers as their head coach and led them to a 76, 63-1 record, including 4 playoff appearances and a trip to the Super Bowl following the 2015 shot. Shouts out my boy Cam Newton for carrying my boy Ron Rivera that way. Washington moved quickly to hire Rivera as head coach. He has a 26, 34-1 record through 4 seasons. Terrible, man. For his career, Rivera has a record of 102, 97-2, .512 winning percentage over 13 seasons with 5 playoff appearances, 3-5 record. So, I mean, to me, that just sounds like the definition of average. And again, for me as a fan, being average is my worst nightmare. I prefer to be terrible for a couple of seasons, get it out the way, and then skyrocket up the NFL tiers, than just being average for forever. I mean, trust me, as somebody raised in Atlanta, watching the Hawks, watching the Falcons for so long, and rooting against the Falcons actively, seeing a team be average for forever, it just doesn't go. You don't go anywhere. The teams that are worse than you are eventually going to surpass you after being bad for so long. They're drafting all of the elite potential playmakers at whatever position it is: quarterback, edge rusher, offensive tackle. They're getting the franchise cornerstone players while we're just picking up. I mean, I'm still excited about Jahan Dotson's future, but Jahan Dotson over Jamison Williams or George Pickens, all of these other guys, is still like, those are the type of moves we make while the other teams are getting the more talented guys. That's just how it's been for a while, man. So yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get a notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Please let me know in the comment section how you feel about this whole situation. Do you want to wait until after the season to fire Rivera? Do you want to go ahead and fire him now to give Eric Bieniemy a chance to audition for his job? Because it's not even likely that Eric Bieniemy our head coach. He may not even be a leading candidate for head coach for us next year. Josh Harris isn't necessarily attached to him. Eric Bieniemy was hired here technically by Dan Snyder, Ron Rivera, Martin Mayhew, and all of those guys. So if Ron Rivera's gone, Eric Bieniemy may even be gone. Like, say if we want guys like a Ben Johnson that a lot of us really like over there in Detroit to become our next head coach, and who's to even say he even wants to come to Washington? Even though we will have we have 3 top 100 draft picks. My fault. 5 top 100 draft picks, 3 top 50 draft picks right now. A lot of cap space and potentially a franchise quarterback and Sam Howell to get built around. So maybe we will be attracted to him. But I mean, who's to say that even if Ben Johnson wants to come here and if we're willing to hire him, Eric Bieniemy may not be a leading candidate for the head coaching job. He really may not be, man. Eric Bieniemy's probably on the way out with Ron Rivera. I mean, I love Eric Bieniemy. I'm really excited about his potential for this team, and especially coming into the season. But I would agree with a lot of y'all that don't like Eric Bieniemy that he hasn't necessarily shown enough to where he's just this, we can't let him go. We can't miss Eric Bieniemy. We can't allow him to go somewhere else type of guy so far this season. Again, the development of Sam Howell is something he can lay his hat on, but everything else, he's had moments, but he hasn't had necessarily a great coaching season overall. I mean, granted, there's bumps in the road. You got to give people time to get everything together, to work out the chemistry, to get every little wrinkle in the in the offense going and stuff like that. But hey, man, I don't know. So let me know in the comment section. I think it is worth it to just go ahead and fire Rivera early so that Eric Bieniemy can get a chance to show what he can do as a head coach, because I don't think he'll get that chance here next offseason. I don't think it'll just be Eric Bieniemy from Josh Harris, go ahead and coach the 2024 Commanders. We're going to give you a full year to try it out as the head coach. I don't really see that as likely. So I say go ahead and give him the chance now to see what he can do. I mean, granted, it would be hard to isolate him from all the losing we'll probably do while he's the head coach, but hey, man, I would say go ahead and give him a chance now. So let me know in the comment section how you feel. Do we need to fire Rivera now and go ahead and let Eric Bieniemy be our head coach for the remainder of the season? Do we need to wait till after the offseason to fire Rivera? Some of y'all like Josh Harris that feels like, hey, maybe give Rivera another year. I'm not, but again, I'm going to try my best to read and reply to every comment in the comment section in this video. Again, make sure y'all support the channel. I really appreciate y'all. Let me know how y'all feel about everything. Step on that like button on the way out. Daily content coming. I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.